So, a bit of an introduction here. Fear not, it's good news. So, Paul Corman Roberts is our feature this evening. He's quite the passionate activist and perceptive poet whose renown knows no bounds. Paul is the author of Bone Moon Palace from Black Lawrence Press, 2021, a CLMP Firecracker nominated full length poetry collection. He's also the author of the graphic chapbook, The Sincere, with illustrator Ray Swaney from Libran Apocalypse Books, that's 2022. He is a founder and current organizer of the Beast Crawl Lit Festival in Oakland and currently teaches workshops for the San Francisco Creative Writing Institute. He sometimes fills in as a drummer for the U.S. Coastal Service, the Jennifer Blowdryer Band, and the Posansky Sisters, but mostly it says here he's just exhausted. Interestingly enough, he's been quoted as saying, "All my life, I've had people important to me, people I've held close for good reason, tell me that I was born to be a poet and a teacher. These aren't exactly the things a person who wants to be a rock star or very popular want to hear. From what I could tell, teachers worked very hard for very little money, and poets did even more impractical tasks for even less money. However, the more I directly embraced both these lines of work, the more my life found a way to grow into something more complete." And that, my friend, is a great quote. So I'm going to mute me and turn the mic to you, my friend. Thank you for showing, thank you for knowing, and thank you for glowing.
Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you, Sacred Community. It is always an honor and privilege to be featured in the Sacred Community. Like I said, my first feature ever as a poet was in 1996, right there on the corner of, what is that, Cole and, it was a Cole and Grove, right? Or Cole and Hayes, right on the corner of Cole and Hayes with several, and I saw a lot of those old, but anyway, it goes way back. I mean, there was a whole nother community there, and I feel them all in spirit. I feel the spirit of Johanna Wedgwood here tonight, and I just want to say that I do have a book to sell. I have a book out called 19. It's a chapbook, 19th Street Station, Volume 2. If I can just share for just a moment so people can see it, it looks like that. That's the cover. That's the cover of it. But then I'll stop my share. So I just wanted to put it out there. If folks, if you like my set, if you like my work, I think you might be interested in buying it. There is the information in the chat screen to buy it. And Alan, I just want to say, when the yacht, watch out for those orcas, man. They've got it out for the yachts. So, all right, I'm going to get started. I'm going to get into my set because I've got some work to get through here. I'm going to open with a piece called "I've Never Known a Dead End," Part 1. We are the scavenger hunt, the marsupial swim crawling upstream over the surface of the reeds at the end of the lane, before the pit bulls get their daily hour of yard time. We play dead because we are not fast. 2. I have found freedom in surrendering to my power, whether it be higher or lower. I've surrendered reading the room in favor of letting the current carry me to the place of most resistance. This is where I found the marsupial, eyes closed, but not really. Mouth open, frozen grimace of expiration, but not really. They pass secret notes which tell me this is the best way to interpret the Perseids and the messages hidden in their fading tail traces. Nothing is dead in here. 3. We move when we move, and we are moved when we don't. All the light landing on our membranes, all of it filtered by the chrysalids left over, our eyes and lids by last evening's laborers, by last evening's upholsterers who do their best work by the light of meteor showers. All right, this next poem is called "The White Evangelical Nationalists Are Stoned on Their Own Ball Sweat Again This Morning." It's neocons Eve tonight, in Arizona, in Michigan, in California, wherever. Fight or flight now for God's beautiful queers, black and brown families in perpetual mourning, Protection gun rackets for sale on every corner. QAnon, our new Ministry of Information. Prince DeVos smells broken glass, smells fire, the blood of the vulnerable, an Afrikaner bully made hot with lust for the powerless. Teenage martyrs, rifles strapped to their Bibles, matching red youth uniforms, while white Jesus rocks out with Ted Nugent and Jonathan Cain, all making sure commie Jesus, who tips over the bankers' tables in the temple, knows which side of the room to line up on. Don't get too close to our non-aborted baby Jesus. Everything is on the table in the United States of Russia, the earth-centered cosmos, the will of angry invisible men who live in the sky. And it wasn't that long ago. We got a little bit of rain not too long ago. I like when the rain comes around. So this is something for the rain. Cycles. Season of wet. Season of pungent soil. Season of sweet mud engulfing rubber boots so far down you're lucky to get away with your calves running toward an open field you pray far removed from the marshlands that define the borders of your favorite beach spot. Season of broken firestorms and forced storms too late. Season of rerouted flight trajectories like destinies funneled onto the edge of a bay. Season of waiting for the other rubber boot to drop, because all of us have been needing that closure in the onslaught of our daily routines being prioritized by those who have no appreciation for the season. Season of droplets. Season of deep foliage collecting wisps of deep fog. Season of moisture reclaimed by the dead we already buried in our landscaping schemes, and who are you to deny them their due? Season of poems about the season. Season of trying to keep the politics out of the poems about the season. Season of trying to keep the politics out of the poems about the season when the light lasts a little bit longer into the night, when the darkness takes its edge off, when the whole cycle of stuff deciding to be alive is the irresistible force that overwhelms the immovable objectification of everything that is, or ever has been, or ever will be alive. The season of being alive. Season of living for the rain that reminds you how alive you really are and what a gift that life under the water truly is. Season of the soft, moist of life. Season of coming back to life. Season of wet. And here's, I don't know, I'm just, yeah, I know, I'm reading weird poems tonight. This is another weird poem I wrote. I lost my cat a couple of weeks ago, and I mostly processed it through, but I wrote some weird poems sort of with him in mind before he passed, and I think like subconsciously I knew it was coming, even though it was like really a surprise when it came. So this is called Simba in Winter. As sure as there are mouths within mouths, he will hunt later than wished, and scraps for all if he gets lucky. A growling warmth and a growing brightness bathed in the auspices, the elder curls as felines have always curled. Even though Lookout is no longer covered by even a lone sentry, the old man's royal eyes, already half masting it beneath the day's first photons, tired now as they are because they had been opened hours before in the dark, now surveys the savannah. Before sunrise, he thinks, old lions weren't meant for this. This Hiboon, this is why they sang Dixie. This is what they meant when they said the South will rise again. That white supremacy would again find its way into the corridors of power, where the mere suggestion that a lack of pigmentation would be a sure sign of the favor of the angry father who lives in the sky, because why wouldn't God be just like the people who want to rape and pillage the people who look different than what the pig-mentally challenged favored children of an angry sky father look like? This is what they meant when they cried, never again, but they left out the part of never again to us when someone else can be holocausted. Never again will we think about a two-state solution. Never again will we think about a two-party system when a binary cannot stand where the center does not hold because one half of the house has decided to spend all their time masturbating to kiddie porn while making sure the other guy gets all the blame. This is what they meant when they said roll tide roll, as in a rising tide, as in a rising red tide, as in a tsunami of blood that can't be washed out of integrated bathroom facilities. Because if there is ever one universal third rail to justify segregation, then it has to be those things that subjugate and humiliate the individual right out of their sense of community and belonging, i.e., their genitalia, their pigmentation, who they want to kiss, and especially if they pay their taxes. This is what they meant when they sang, look away, look away, look away. All right, I'm gonna time here. A few more. This is called attendant. I cut the cord connecting my daughter to her mother, and damn if the rich, dark blood that came flowing out from the umbilical didn't look exactly like mole, dense in nutrients and protein, dark red, but somehow even more dark red. And yes, despite my surroundings, a sterile fluorescent hospital operating room at 4 in the fucking morning, I'm reminded that I haven't eaten in over a day. And boy, I could go for some really good Mexican right now. But no, no time to dwell on that. Even as this amazing little mass of gray squalling that is my daughter, upon being forcibly removed from the only home she's ever known via a C-section, and yes, a C-section is arguably a form of ethnic cleansing by that definition. She already has a plastic tube being shoved down her throat, as if all this wasn't enough trauma, and my impulse is to scream, no, you can't do that to my baby, even though I know damn well she has meconium in her lungs, and that literal shit needs to be got out of there. But there is not even enough time to reflect on imprint trauma in these moments, as now mama has to get sewn back up in the haze of her epidural cocktail, and my daughter, who I'm pretty sure is very much a Hannah, appears to have her lungs clear, so she is swaddled like a burrito, burrito, and we are ushered without haste to the nursery, where she is semi-incubated, and the lights aren't quite so bright, and this little munchkin in front of me has no interest in not crying. She is not fucking happy about her new setup. And yet at this moment, it is the greatest sound I've ever heard. I do what I always do when weird, sleepless euphoria grips hold of my senses. I begin babbling nonstop. Oh my goodness, you're so gorgeous and beautiful. And we're so happy you are here with us now, and everything is going to be all right. I promise. Even though it doesn't seem like it right now, I promise you it is all going to get so much better. And did I mention how beautiful and gorgeous you are? And for 15 seconds, her crying stops, and she turns her head slightly to the right to look right in my eyes. And yes, my breath catches. Yeah, hi, it's me, that goofy voice that's been talking to you through those big poofy headphones we put on your mama's belly. Do you recognize my voice? She doesn't begin crying again exactly, more like an exasperated series of loud sighs that sounds something like a question, that sounds something like I'm going to hear for a long, long time. The attendant RN asks me if I've ever considered a career in public speaking. And I think I have enough time for just one more. I'll just do this last one. I'm going to close out with this piece called Labyrinth by Night. We're all just mailmen in watered down moonlight because we don't schedule shifts when the werewolves are out, banging up against the wall when we sense the onset of the undercover minotaur. All the better to complete our appointed rounds, removing outdated election propaganda and replacing those signposts and flyers with psychic junk mail deliveries and yarrow gratitude extractions stashed in the centers of this double down maze. But only, oh, snap. The engineers most certainly lied their asses off when they claimed there were no dead ends, when they said this was the only strand of time where the karma of your betrayals couldn't reach you. Therefore, there is no better time to grind your teeth into that root, killing the compulsive desire to spiral the toxic rabbit holes, making passes at you every time you sidle up against those third rails. Every time you watch those beautiful lovers stand hand in hand near the tunnel's mouth as the headlight of the oncoming commuter train grows wider and brighter, and you are left to wonder why you don't yearn for that same beauty, why you are the only one who turns away from that red spectacle in the last few moments before impact, splayed, insecure on the filthy platform tiles, and when it finally feels safe to stand, there is only there in the trenches the denial river and its watered down promise of freedom as an option to carry you home. And just when you thought it had been wise to cut your losses, is when you realize not only has the undercover Minotaur come upon you, not only has the undercover Minotaur cornered you, they have maneuvered their glee-infused leer right into your face and whisper, "Good morning, goodbye, and happy fucking Christmas." And just as quickly, the undercover Minotaur is riding out Denial River on their own subcurrent. And only then do you realize the undercover Minotaur is the true Postmaster General of the Labyrinth by night, and they have relieved you of your delivery pouch. And you are surprised this is not as disappointing as you had imagined, even as you pick your jaw up off the asphalt, inserting and locking it back into place as you stare wordlessly after where the true Postmaster General faded into the shadows, your sweat-drenched body drying out, in what little starlight and watered-down moonlight is left to you on this wolfless night. I'll close with I found a Crossroads bit. I'll close with the Crossroads bit, or sort of, kind of peripherally a Crossroads bit, I guess. I've never read this. This isn't. I wrote this like, I don't know, over half a year ago, and I've never read this. These are Google Maps directions on how to reach full consciousness, a work in progress. 1, dissociate from your corporeal body. This first part is very difficult, so however you can do this, just go with it. 2, once you reach dissociation, make a slight detection of a nearby current, not quite a river, not quite an electrical circuit, but an undeniable current of energy. 3, continue on to and follow the current. 4, as you follow this current, many strange obstacles will attempt to dissuade you from the route you are following. Do not allow any of these things to obstruct you. Once you have left the route, there will be no corrective directions to guide you. You will most likely never regain the path as you are far from your corporeal state. 5, eventually the many strange obstacles will cease to be present along the roadway, and you will now approach a great barrier, which shall appear as an erasure of any evidence of a visceral world. 6, ignore this barrier. Pass through into the erasure. It's possible you will be erased, but there is no reason to believe your consciousness will not persist. 7, the current will have changed. It will now resemble the widest and most perfectly adorned and decorated highway you have ever seen in your life, surrounded on each side by skyscrapers and edifici that will be the most ornate structures you have ever seen in your life. You will see that this highway and its associated structures on both sides will travel to the vanishing point on the horizon. 8, follow this highway. 9, after a time and distance which you will not be able to measure, the highway will start to narrow down to a single lane road, and then the ornate buildings will begin to crowd in on you from both sides. Regardless, continue down this road. 10, eventually the single lane road will narrow down even further to a very thin dirt path, and the ornate skyscrapers and edifici will now stretch upward for what seems like infinity to a vanishing point in the sky, except for that one tiny line you will see cutting through the middle of your sky, which will actually be what little open sky is left to you. In this place, sunrise and sunset happen almost simultaneously. 11, here you will meet a Minotaur, who is not quite a Minotaur and has been waiting for you. Like everything else here, it will be a part of God, though not an inhabitant of God's city. In God's city, there is only one citizen. 12, address the Minotaur, who is not quite a Minotaur. Ask them to take you to meet God. 13, wait for the Minotaur, who is not quite a Minotaur, to cease their hysterical laughter. Then ask them again to take you to meet God, because you are the child of God. 14, this is a crucial point. What happens next determines if this is the home stretch or the end of your travels. And that's it. That's the poem. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sacred Grounds. Thank you. Just very special to have a nice long set tonight, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Sacred Community.
Ladies and gentlemen, unmute and let him hear.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
Hooray!
Bravo, bravo.
Right.
Thank you, everybody.
That was great.
Wow, what a set. You said it. Woo.
You rock, Paul.
Thank you, Louise.